do I bring this up? There are a lot of rich niggas in America. There are a lot of black people with money. But guess what? A lot of us don't have it. And me, I'm included. I'm a poor English teacher. I teach English online. And to be frank with you, I don't travel places looking to go on safari or climb mountains. I'm looking for a place for freedom for black people. And let's get to that part now. In Kenya, they suffer from the same white supremacist mindset that existed in Tanzania. When Kenyans see white people, they go crazy. Period. I was walking down so many times, and I'm glad my wife is here, that she could realize, that she could validate it. But I don't need my wife to come and speak up for me, because I know what happened, because I saw what happened. My wife and I are walking down the street. She's on one side, I'm on the other side. Kenyans pass, jumbo to her, no jumbo for me, no hello for me. My wife is walking to the grocery store alone. People are saying, we love white people. I want to be around white people. White people make me happy. These are things you've heard, right? My wife is walking down the street. Men are pulling over their cars and hopping out the windows and waving at her, embarrassing us, embarrassing us. I bring this up because it's 2023. And at this point, every black person in the world should know how white people treat us when we go to their countries. There is not a country in the world where black people are the minority where we have not experienced explicit outright violence, discrimination, prejudice by the state or by the populace or the culture. If it's not ingrained in the culture, it's becoming a part of it, right? Because of the spread of white supremacy around the world. To see black people act like that broke my heart, because I will always, always hate a coon. I will always hate a coon, an Uncle Tom, a step and fetch it, way, way, way before I hate a white supremacist. Because I know the white people are gonna white people, but I don't know what the coons are gonna do. The coons stopped Denmark Vesey from having a slave revolt to get us free. The coons almost killed Harriet Tubman. The coons killed Malcolm X. The coons helped them kill Martin Luther King. So we'll never have love for coons over here. And in Africa, I've seen a lot of cooning. I've seen a lot of chasing white people down when they see them on the beach. I've heard a lot of disturbing things that have been told to my wife that she relayed to me. And listen, like I say in every other video, when I go to a country that is, let's say, non-whites, right? Like Mauritius or Turkey by some stretch, right? White supremacy affects the minds of all people, people who are white or non-white or white adjacent, right? So Africa will be no different. But at this point, if you want to come to Africa and you want to experience what it's like to be a free black man, if you want to see black people with dignity, if you want to see black people holding up their head high, not black men, you know, chasing after white women like it's going to get them a visa, not black men, you know, embarrassing themselves, saying the stupidest things you've ever imagined, do not come to Kenya. Do not. Because the way the Kenyans and Tanzanians and a lot of Africans act towards white people would make all of us who have been living with the devil for years incredibly mad. So that's all I have to say. And some people might say, well, you know, the Africans are naturally friendly. The Africans are naturally nice people. They want to greet you with jumbo. They want to greet foreigners with jumbo. And because, Simon, you do not look like a foreigner, they will not greet you with the jumbo. So you're saying that white people can come to a country, and because they look different, right, and they come from places that have historically oppressed us and stolen the wealth of Africa, they get the jambos, they get the greetings, they get the smiles and the grins, right? Now, another thing people might say is that, you know, when you come to Africa, nothing is going to be perfect. When you come to a place, any place in the third world, right, the developing nations of the world, you're going to have ignorance. I wouldn't be surprised if the literacy rate in Kenya is about 80%, right? If not a lot of people get proper education, right? I wouldn't be surprised if that happened. Well, now's the time to change it. If you're going to give that excuse, that Kenyans don't know that's not right, or that's not the right thing to do, show them this video. If they don't understand English, but you do, translate it. Tell them that this is not acceptable, right? Because guess what these white people do when they leave Kenya, or when they leave Africa? They go back to their countries and say, we can treat these niggers any type of way. We can talk to them any type of way, discriminate against them in our countries, kick them out of our countries, let them die in the Mediterranean, refuse to get them visas, abandon our daughters and sons if they choose to marry them. But when we go to Africa, we get treated like kings and gods. It's an embarrassment. It's an embarrassment. How do I know this? Because I know white people in and out, been around them all my life. Trust me, this is what they're thinking about us, and it has to stop. Now, let's get back to the stuff that doesn't have to do with white supremacy in Kenya. You know, Kenya is easy to move around because of the English. I would also say that, you know, if you want to do things like set up a business, buy a home, it's probably very easy and affordable, and they make it possible for you to do that. I didn't look into that because that's not what I'm doing, right? I'm just out here giving the report, but I would imagine that it is possible because of that language barrier that's broken down. Okay, but second thing you got to remember is that when you come to a country like Kenya, Tanzania, Uganda, Rwanda, whatever, you are coming to the developing world. So you're getting stuff like burning trash. You're getting stuff like, you're getting stuff like, you know, you're getting stuff like burning trash. You're getting stuff like, you know, people throwing trash in the street. You're getting stuff like things that are not really set up and proper, right? So you might have this informality in the country or in the economy, right? So you have to deal with that. But if you can deal with that, if you can survive that, and most likely we can because we survived white supremacist America, we can survive here too. So that's all I have to say. That's all I have to say. Kenya gets a much, much, much better rating than Tanzania when it comes to things because, you know, I did have problems here with people trying to rip me off and scam me like what happened in Tanzania, but not to the extent that it happened in Kenya. I had people, just try to take advantage because they know that I'm a foreigner or they know that we're foreigners when they see us or hear us speak. So that is a problem, but it does not happen to the degree that it happens in Tanzania. Also here in Kenya, you have, you know, apps like Uber, and you also have apps like InDrive that can help you move around easily. And generally the people are okay. You do have the body odor issue that happens here in East Africa, but they do take care of their teeth, right? I haven't seen any bad teeth here. I'm just giving you all the honest reviews. So that's what I have to say about my Black Shit review for Kenya. Thanks for watching. All the Black Americans, I highly, highly encourage you to get your passport, travel, get outside and see the world. We're not traveling to, you know, sleep with women in Vietnam. We're not traveling the world to just try to, you know, go make more money that we end up giving to the white man anyway by buying, you know, luxury goods. We're trying to look for freedom. We're looking for freedom all across the world. And Kenya is close to being a place for freedom for us. But there's still a long way to go with the mentality that they have here with the, you know, with white supremacy deep, deep, deep in the soul and the mind of the people.
Are you a Black American who is intending to move to East Africa? You want to move either to Rwanda, you want to move either to Uganda, Tanzania, or Kenya? I think this video is for you. A brother who is an Black American who travels the world shares his experiences while he was living in Kenya, and I think this is important and very, very relevant for you who wants to live in Kenya. And then I'll give you my thoughts towards the end of the video. So without further ado, let's jump into the video.
And so now this video is for Kenya. But before I get into that, let me get some ground rules laid down first. So first things first, my videos are specifically targeted towards Black Americans. These are not for Africans. These are not for white people. These are not for Arabs. These are not for Indians. These are not for Turks. These videos are specifically targeted for Black Americans because half of the stuff I'm saying, most people wouldn't get unless they are Black Americans, period. So let's get that out the way. If you are not a Black American and you're watching this video and you're going to get upset and tight, eat my penis. Second thing, everything I say in this video is true. My channel is not monetized. I don't make $1 off of any of these videos. So everything I say comes directly from the heart. And anything else you hear about me that didn't come from me is not true, period. Okay? And the third thing, if you don't like what I have to say, there are hundreds, maybe even thousands of other Black YouTube travelers who go to other countries and suck that country's dick. Oh, Spain is great. Oh, Italy is great. Oh, Turkey is great. Oh, Morocco is great. I don't do that. If I like a country, like Mauritius, I'm going to give the real. If I don't like it, like Tanzania or a little bit of Turkey, then I'm going to give the real. There will never be any fake stuff on my channel. All right? Period. So let's get to it. I've been in Kenya for about 2.5 months. As you see, I'm in the Moi International Airport now. I did not plan on leaving this soon. I came in January, let's say around January 5th, and I'm leaving today on about March 10th, right? So it's about 2 months and a few days, right? I planned on staying for 3 months like I do usually for all my other videos, but I had some emergencies happen with my finances, my phone, personal things I have to deal with, right? So that's what's happening as far as my time in Kenya. I came from Arusha on a bus, and my wife and I went to Mombasa, and we spent a lot of time in Mombasa, Mombasa city center, Bamburi, Shanzu. We went up to Mutawapa in Kilifi County. Then also we went down to Diani, the Diani beach area, Ukunda, whatever you want to call it, right? So that's what I'll be talking about here. I did not get a chance to go to Nairobi. I did not get a chance to go to other places here. Okay, so let's get to it. So there are a lot of things that I like about Kenya when it comes to what it offers for Black Americans, right? First and foremost, the language barrier compared to Tanzania is almost non-existent, right? Compared to Tanzania, nobody speaks English. Everybody's very shady and tricky. Here in Kenya, you know, generally, I would say 85% of the people that you run into can speak functional English and understand you when you're talking to them. So for Black Americans, that's a very, very, very important thing when we travel abroad. Secondly, the second thing that I want to bring up is that, you know, similar to if you're a Black American and you're first coming to Africa, sub-Saharan Africa, not North Africa for the first time, coming to a place like Kenya might be easier to acclimate to, okay? So once again, you know, when you're here, everybody looks like us. There's not that assumption of presumption that they have with us in places where we are the minority. You get to fully express yourself as who you are. People recognize you for being a good or bad person, right? Okay, so we don't have to deal with that sort of thing. Now, another thing I want to bring up about Kenya, and I'm kind of tainted in my opinion about Kenya because a lot of it is based on also what I experienced in Tanzania. Spent 3 months in Tanzania, had a horrible time. So I'm going to be comparing Kenya and Tanzania in this section to highlight what it offers for Black Americans who want to come here and reconnect with their roots and be in a space that feels free and fun, right? So Kenya has Mount Kenya, of course. You also have safari, just like you have in Tanzania. You have the beach like you have in Tanzania. But in all of those cases, Kenya beats Tanzania in every category, every category. There's nothing that Tanzania has that Kenya doesn't have, and that is better, and that is more accessible, period. That's my honest opinion, and that's the absolute truth, because if you compare climbing Mount Meru and Mount Kilimanjaro, which is about $2,500 starting, right, with a tour guide, and then you compare climbing the second highest mountain in Africa, Mount Kenya, for no tour guide or with a tour guide at a much cheaper rate, it's unbeatable. Where if you're talking about going on safari, you want to go to the Serengeti in Tanzania and end up paying $800 per person per day. Meanwhile, you can do the same thing in Nairobi for about $300, maybe even less at the national park, right, and other places here. So Kenya has much, much more opportunities to do stuff that's much more affordable. Why?
As a Kenyan, I can attest and confirm that it is true. Kenyans, as Africans, some weird Africans, not all of us, but some weird Africans, we tend to prioritize, we tend to elevate light-skinned people, we tend to elevate people who are white. We have the Mzungu, the European, you know, the white person, and then we have Africans who are also light-skinned. We tend to elevate them and respect them more. And you'll be surprised that an African will even insult you to give privilege to a white person. An African would give food to a white person, would be so kind to a white person, but they would be so rude to a fellow black person. I've seen it happening. And what a level of hypocrisy is this? This is the highest form of hypocrisy I have never seen and I've ever noticed. You know, if we want to show love and if we want African Americans to come and live with us, then we must show that we love ourselves first. We can't be subjecting our people to colorism and racism, you know. An African is performing racism against an African because of a white person. So there was this time I was going to some place, it's called the KICC. Now, it was the time for closing the place, but we Africans were told to get out of that place because it was now time to close. But then I saw some white people moving up. They not really white, they were Asians. I think they were Koreans. We have quite a number of Koreans in Kenya, also in Nairobi. So I wondered, why is this happening? And the person was so kind, talking gently. He was so good. You could feel like this person is very much pretending. You could feel the difference from how he was talking to you and from now how he's talking to the white person. Another time I was in an art gallery and I was asking questions about the art. The person looked at me from head to toe. You know, what can you, he was trying to tell me, what can you afford? And then I saw white people passing and I saw how they were treating these white people. You know, they perceive us because we are dark, we poor, we sick, we thieves, we steal from them. And the sick thing is this. The sick thing is that it's a fellow African doing this to a fellow African, you know. An African talking bad against an African doing this and that. It's like Stockholm Syndrome, where you form emotional bond with your captivator, with somebody who has captured you, with your capturer, not captivator. Now, this brother from Tanzania has really shared and has told a lot about the situation of Africans, white people, and Africans who are light-skinned. Africans who even put colorism between us. Men tend to favor women who are light-skinned. It happens here in Kenya, here. Even TV stations, the TV stations choose ladies who are white-skinned. Even in businesses, they want ladies who are light-skinned. Even in hotels, they want waiters who are light-skinned. You know, people have perceived that being light, being close to a white person is the epitome of beauty, is the epitome of handsomeness. You go to an M-Pesa, you always find a white lady. You go to a butter shop, you always find a white lady. Name it all. You go to a shop, a big shop, anywhere, Samsung, LG, whichever place you go, you always find a light-skinned African over there. You know? So I'm asking myself, like, what's the space of Africans who are black? Like, they're making it really hard for African ladies who are black. If I were a black lady, I would have really loved my skin. I would have said, okay, I'm good. Of course I'm black. I'm not saying that I'm light-skinned. I'm far from light-skinned. But if I were a lady, I would not be pressured to go and bleach, because many of these ladies are moving outside. They are going to bleach themselves just to meet their boss's demands. This tells you the level of colonialism. The mind has been colonized. The mind has been hacked. The integrity of the mind is corrupted. It's corrupted by the misconception and the stereotypes that the Western media has fed us. It's been corrupted by the misconception and stereotypes that the white person brought unto us when they colonized us. There is no person who is beautiful in terms of their skin. No. Skin does not define beauty. We have black and beauty. We have them, but we don't prioritize them. It takes a white person to admire a black person who is black, but a black person can't admire a fellow black person who is black. That's weird. It's very weird. It's so weird. You see, a white person might come to Kenya and say, you're beautiful. I like your dark charcoal color. But a fellow African would find that lady ugly. By all means, they find that lady ugly. Yeah, you hear, in Kenya we have a name for them. We call them kienyeji, you know. But it's wrong, it's wrong. This tells you the level of colorism, you know. But also, let's do away with the colorism and the racism thing. Kenya is also an interesting country because Kenya is a country that was colonized by the white people. And when Kenya was colonized by the white people, English became the official language. Kenya is an English-speaking country. It's different from Tanzania. It's different from Mozambique, which they speak Portuguese. It's different from Namibia. They speak German. It's different from other parts of Africa where they speak different languages. African Americans, the only language they predominantly understand is English. So you choosing to move to Africa, language is a factor. Language is a very, very big factor. It's something that you should not look down upon. You know, you want to come to a country where you understand one another. You don't speak in, you can live with people, you can hear them, they can hear you. You know, that's one interesting thing about Africa, about Kenya. you know, and Africa in general. Another thing about Kenya that I find it interesting is this. The average cost of living in Kenya is way better than that of Ghana, you know, and than that of Ghana and South Africa. But Tanzania is way cheaper than Kenya. Tanzania is way cheaper than Kenya. Remember, there's a time when Tanzania was a communist state. They were practicing socialism under the President Julius Kaberere Nyerere. Yeah, so they were practicing communism, and these I think this really hindered their progress economically, and the Tanzania shillings is very weak against the Kenya shillings, and it's even way more weaker against the US dollars. So the cost of living in Kenya is better, is good, is cheap, but the cost of living in Tanzania is cheaper. The cost of living in Kenya is cheaper than that of Ghana. The cost of living in Kenya is cheaper than that of South Africa. So African Americans choosing to move to Kenya, these are some of the things you should look on. Generally, Africans in Kenya are very friendly. We are very friendly people. As I told you, we are friendly to foreigners but unfriendly to the locals. Yeah, most of us are very unfriendly to the locals. I don't know, we think that people who, when we welcome these people, they're gonna steal from us. You know, in Kenya, in Kenya, a Kenyan is always a fellow suspect to a Kenyan. We always hunt each other. You know, there's always this mind game of hunting each other. But let's look past all that and let's focus on the big image here. The big image is that Africans need to move back to Africa, and Africans should learn to prioritize their fellow Africans. It's when we can fully accept African Americans. We can't pretend to love African Americans while we don't love our fellow Africans. Because let me tell you something, Kenyans. We have black-skinned African Americans. So would you also look down upon them because they're black-skinned? No. Light or black-skinned, Africa is Africa. Yes. Yeah. So that's all for today. If you enjoyed this channel video in this channel, kindly subscribe to the channel. Join my Patreon page. You can always support the channel monthly. I will appreciate. Also share the channel to spread your awareness. Thank you for the original creator of this video. Without you, this video would not have been possible. Thank you so much. See you in the next one. Remember to stay African.